This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thanks for letting me do this for so long. Understanding how a games developer thinks will always be a bit of a losing battle. I mean, games development in general is incredibly challenging, so the average dev is probably too stressed out of their mind to fix every mistake, and sometimes a few slip through the cracks. Now, I'm aware that mistake is a bit of a wide net to throw over a video game that can be applied to everything from glitches and bad optimization to a poorly executed story, but for the sake of having an easier time making this video and to avoid crashing into other topics, I want to talk about small quirks of a game's design. No crazy game-breaking glitches or fundamental issues of how a game was made, just little oversights that crucially have never been fixed despite ample opportunities to do so. Maybe they're a load-bearing mistake that could have unforeseen consequences, or maybe the devs are just being sentimental. The mistake is like a child to them. Given everything we know about Nintendo and how they make their games, surely they don't just leave mistakes in their video games. I mean, they definitely make mistakes, and most of them can be found in their work outside of video games, but the actual non-glitchy oversights aren't quite as numerous. I want to focus on one of the stranger mistakes they've made that is completely justified, but goes some way towards explaining a weird quirk that didn't quite get fixed in the way you'd think. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is a game with a lot of ideas, and given that it was designed as a reaction to people who didn't like how cartoony the Wind Waker was, it makes sense that large parts of Twilight Princess deviate away from Wind Waker. Did you know that Twilight Princess originally had a magic meter and that it was only taken out of development late on? So late on that a screenshot showing the magic meter made its way onto the back of the game box? Yeah, crazy to think, but even crazier to think that the devs didn't completely scrub all existence of a magic meter in this game. Chew jellies can be killed to give you effectively a more natural version of the coloured potions that give you the same benefit. There's no green potion in this game because there's no magic meter to restore, but there is a way of finding a green chew if you know where to look and what to do. There's a floor in the Cave of Ordeals full of chews, and if you can kill the surrounding chews, you can allow a blue chew and a yellow chew to merge together. Of course, this nets you a green chew, which can then be killed and its essence bottled for a completely blank description. Link's a smart guy, you'd think you'd be able to work it out. It's literally the colour of your outfit, my guy! So that's the oversight, which is understandable, but if you try to do this in the HD remake, the only change is that now it's being described as not all that tasty. Obviously, drinking it does nothing in either version because the thing that was supposed to be restored literally doesn't exist, but I'm amazed that the devs added some extra text instead of, like, sorting this room out. Take the blue or yellow chews out and everything's fine. Just a weird way of fixing a problem, you know? Hey guys, real quick, my channel has been approved for YouTube memberships now, so if you fancy supporting my channel more directly, you can become a member for as little as £1 a month and gain access to some nifty perks, as well as being featured on my channel page. Hit the join button below this video if that sounds cool to you. Thank you, and let's get back to the video. Few game studios make as many mistakes as Bethesda. For a long time, there was something charming to their errors, like a drunk man trying to walk in a straight line. You can see what he's trying to do, but oh god, it's just not gonna happen, is it? Nowadays, the vibe is a little different because Bethesda's failings are a lot more offensive and have me genuinely a little worried about the quality of future projects, but back in 2006, they could get away with a not completely flawless game. Oblivion is great fun, full of design decisions and creative ideas that aren't always normal or expected exactly, but capable of injecting this world with so much character. The NPCs are wonderful and have some really corny voice acting so that you're transported away from reality into this amazing, fantastical land where people talk funny.
Cheese for everyone!
The thing is though, you can't have this much character without inevitably straying a little too close to the line. Oblivion may have some very fun voice acting performances, but it also has outtakes that have been left in the game. Although would they technically count as outtakes because you usually leave them out, hence the name, so intakes? Like, breathing? Anyway, yeah, there are lines of dialogue in this game where mistakes have been left in, ranging from failing to cut the audio at the right moment.
Lady Umbernox has hired a new captain. Lady Umbernox has hired a new captain of the guard.
To leaving in the wrong take so much that any immersion got off several stops back.
I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again. I heard that thieves broke into the arcane universe.
It's not super widespread or anything, so it's not like it's a fundamental issue of how the audio was imported into Oblivion, but it's a mistake that was left in a video game and one that puts a smile on my face. Todd, you're a treasure.
What? That really pisses me off.
The best way to identify a mistake post-launch is to listen to what the fans are talking about. I say talking, but if it's a large enough mistake, you probably won't have to listen too hard to determine if something needs addressing as soon as possible. But with older games, you can't exactly patch over it with an update. This is part of the fun with remakes, and much like Twilight Princess's remake that steered clear of fixing one dodgy room in the game, Vicarious Visions' approach to remastering the Crash Bandicoot trilogy was done with a similarly hands-off approach. The difference is how both sets of developers acknowledged the problem in the first place. First, some context. The first boss fight in Crash 3 is against Tiny Tiger, where he jumps around a bit before sending all these lines out that Crash needs to jump over or attack, and that's basically all there is to it. It is the first fight in the game after all. Despite being so easy, there's an even easier way of defeating Tiny Tiger. When the lions start coming out, you can stand in the top left corner and none of them will ever hit you. And I'd love to demonstrate this, but I couldn't find footage of anyone doing it online, and I don't fancy dusting off my PS1 and component cables, so you'll just have to take my word for it. At any rate, clearly Vicarious were paying attention and were aware of this error, since by the time Crash 3 was getting remastered for the Insane trilogy, they decided to not do anything about it. Nah, clearly the balance of this fight shouldn't be messed with, so instead of fixing the corner strat, the spectators in this Colosseum wise up to your nonsense and pelt you with a barrage of cheese because, you know, that's what cheese means sometimes. Honestly, I love this because I can imagine some people would have been pissed off if this strategy was removed, and doing nothing would make it look like the devs don't know what game they're remastering here, but the onslaught of cheese is a fun middle ground, especially since the blocks of cheese don't have collision or hurt Crash in any way. They're not an attack from the boss, it's just some fun Easter egg. You can have your cheap tricks, just so long as you're not lactose intolerant. Weapon balance is hard. Even harder depending on the game, because if you want to make a battle royale, you have to be so careful that you don't end up creating either useless weapons or weapons that are so strong that it's like winning the lottery when you find them. You know, there is an element of luck involved, but if you want your battle royale game to thrive and flourish and be around to rub shoulders with the best of them for years to come, you gotta get the weapon balance just right. PlayerUnknown's Battleground in general is pretty good at doing this, with its weapons never going too far in either direction, but there is one weapon that has a property attached to it that it was never intended to have. It's not game-breaking, but it does have a large enough effect to be noticeable. Frying pans are already a pretty big deal in shooters. Team Fortress 2 certainly helped with that, but sure enough, the frying pan in PUBG was already the strongest melee weapon in the game before the devs decided to play around with its properties. The story goes that creator Brendan Green wanted the pan to be able to deflect grenades with the right swing timing, and in giving the pan collision to do this, it also accidentally became bulletproof. Now I know that frying pans are usually made of metal and usually cast iron in real life, but they're definitely not bulletproof, so this isn't PUBG chasing realism, this is the result of playing around with code that ends up doing something unexpected. People loved it though, understandable if you've got a passive weapon that can save you from death, and so the frying pan is still in the game and still bulletproof. Next time they'll experiment with vehicles and accidentally make it so that the pan cooks bacon and eggs. I want to end this video off by talking about the highest profile mistake that was retained through development. Not so much because you haven't heard of it before, but because of the unique challenges of presenting it on YouTube in 2023. Because I want to make this video in a way that supports my lavish lifestyle, I have to skirt around the origins of the original Tomb Raider. Now, we all know how this game came to be, and the natural challenges of creating a new female character with rudimentary creation controls and 1996's version of 3D graphics. The devs only had to create a female character in the first place because their publisher was concerned that a male character would infringe a little too hard on Indiana Jones, and considering the settings and general exploration of ancient temples, this makes a lot of sense. Lara Croft's distinctive design is effectively a mistake that the dev team loved so much that they decided to keep it. I don't have a clue what software they were using to create Lara's model, but in my head, I'm imagining one of those character creation sliders, and if you've ever messed around with one of those for long enough, you probably saw what the minimum and maximum limits for each area of the body looked like. Don't tell me you haven't, because we both know it's too tempting to fuck around with. It's more fun than the actual game sometimes. This basically happened with Lara Croft. Her value was something smaller, a designer listened to the goblins chattering away in his brain and then increased the value by a whole load. It's not a bug or a glitch of the programming, it's a spur-of-the-moment decision that was retained when reported back to higher-ups because Lara Croft having such a unique design made her stand out more. The rest, as they say, is history, and many people who grew up with the early Tomb Raider games cite their enjoyment down to one or two things in particular. She still doesn't have nude codes though, so calm it down a bit. And those are all the mistakes I have for now. What do you think? Do you agree, or is there an unfixed error that you'd have at number 1 instead? Let me know in a comment down below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give a like and hit subscribe for more videos, and click that bell for notifications of future uploads. If you need something else to watch, I talked about bad plot twists last week, and I also want to thank my top supporters on Patreon, including Brady Kellum, Sarah Malion, and the Green Scorpion. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.